So yeah, welcome back to week three. So what we tonight's going to follow a similar format to the previous evening. So we'll look at the next section of the Metta Sutta. We'll have breakout rooms. Then we'll have a break for 10 minutes as normal. And tonight we're going to look at the third stage of the practice, the neutral person stage. So we'll do the first, second, and third stages, and then we'll set up our practice at home before we depart. And what we'll do first is we'll have a short meditation, and I'll read the Metta Sutta, the text that we've been looking at, and I'll read it in a different translation. It's a translation by an order member called Ratnaprabha, and it's a different translation, so different things might come to you from the translation that might not come from the other translation. So you can listen to it and just see what hops out for you, or see what strikes you from that. So if you'd just like to set yourself up and don't go to a lot of trouble. We're not going to be here for a long time, so you might just like to sit comfortably. And if you've just been really busy, if you've had a very full day, which some of you no doubt have, I have, you'll find probably that all kinds of things are buzzing through your mind, events from the day. And it's quite important just to allow that to settle. If you try and push the thoughts away, it'll probably be painful and make you feel tense. So just allowing yourself to arrive just by paying attention to what's actually happening around you and within you, without trying to push anything away or grip or force. So you can just get a sense of what's going on around you, a sense of the space that you're sitting in. And having a sense of your body. And through your body, having a sense of what overall state you're in. You might feel relaxed, you might feel tense, you might feel under pressure, or very full up with work or meetings or other activities. And particularly if you feel tense or if you're finding it difficult to arrive, you can tune into your breathing, feeling the movement of it in your belly, the rhythm of it in your belly, and just enjoying the natural ease and relaxation that comes with the exhalation. So as you exhale, you can drop down into yourself. Metta Sutta. If you know what is truly good for you and understand the possibility of reaching the state of perfect peace, then this is how you need to live. Start as a capable person who is upright, really upright, gently spoken, flexible, and not conceited. Then become contented and happy with few worries and an uncomplicated life. Make sure your experience is calm and controlled. Be duly respectful and don't hanker after families or groups. And avoid doing anything unworthy that wiser people would criticize. Then meditate like this. May all beings be happy and feel secure. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. And think of every living thing without exception, the weak and the strong, from the smallest to the largest, whether you can see them or not, living nearby or far away, beings living now or yet to arise. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. May no one deceive or look down on anyone, anywhere, for any reason. Whether through feeling angry or through reacting to someone else, may no one want another to suffer. As strongly as a mother, perhaps risking her life, cherishes her child, her only child, develop an unlimited heart for all beings. Develop an unlimited heart of friendliness for the entire universe, sending metta above, below, and all around, beyond all narrowness, beyond all rivalry, beyond all hatred. Whether you are staying on one place or traveling, sitting down or in bed, in all your waking hours, rest in this mindfulness, which they say is like living in heaven, right here and now. In this way, you will come to let go of views, be spontaneously ethical, and have perfect insight. And leaving behind craving for sense pleasures from the rounds of rebirth, you'll finally be completely free. So if you'd just like to, if you've got your eyes closed, just opening them again. And I'll just talk a little bit about the next few verses of the sutta. But before I do that, I'll just remind us of where we've come from in the last couple of weeks. So the first verse is, if you know what is truly good for you and understand the possibility of reaching the state of perfect peace, then this is how you need to live. So as we heard in the first week, the sutta starts with a glimpse of the goal, a glimpse of the fact that it's possible for us to be free. It's possible for us to reach a state of perfect peace. So even that is in a way, quite an audacious statement, that perfect peace is available to us because we're human beings. That's what the Buddha is saying. And then he says, if you want that, then this is how you need to live. So you need to put certain conditions in place. You need to do certain things in order to create the conditions for that peace to arrive. And then the next part of the sutta, in fact, the whole rest of the sutta, is him, the Buddha, describing a path to follow that will bring about that transformation, that will culminate in the state of peace. So the path principally has three aspects: ethics, meditation, and wisdom. Wise up, destroy hatred, free your mind. And what we looked at last week is the first part of that path, which is all about laying the ethical foundations. So the path starts with looking at the way that we live, looking at the way that we go about our life, the way that we in particular relate to other people. So the Buddha says we should be able, upright, perfectly upright, of noble speech, gentle, humble, and so on. So he lists 14 different qualities. And we talked about some of those in a little bit more detail last week. Hopefully you had a chance to read the chapter, and there would have been more for you to think about and reflect on in the book. But yeah, so basically the point is that what happens in our mind is conditioned by what we say and what we do, and what we say and what we do is conditioned by what happens in our mind. So any path of transformation has to include a training in both aspects, in both what we say and what we do, and also training in how we think and what we do emotionally. And part of that, well, it all takes place, in fact, against the backdrop of a dynamic understanding of what a human being is, that we're constantly coming into being moment by moment. And if we bring awareness to that, we can start having more influence about how we recreate ourselves moment by moment. And we saw at the next verse, it says, and avoid doing anything unworthy that wiser people would criticize. We also saw that the path is greatly enhanced or intensified if we're in contact with people who are more experienced than us. So this principle seems to hold true. Whatever we want to learn, it's always easier and more effective if we've got a good teacher, somebody that we can look up to train. And the training in Buddhism and the Buddhist path includes a kind of moral training, that we're trying to acquire the skill of acting ethically, acting with an awareness of the way our actions shape our character and the way our actions influence the world around us and the people that we're with. So this week, having laid the ethical foundations, it moves on to the stage of meditation. So what the text says is, it just literally just says, may all beings be happy and secure, may their hearts be wholesome. It literally just plunges straight into meditation. The other translation that I read earlier says, then meditate like this. May all beings be happy and feel secure. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. So the little bit, then meditate like this, is added in, just so you know that this is what's happening now. We've moved into a meditation. So the point here really is that if the ethical foundations are laid, if we've lived, expressing all those 14 different qualities, if we're contented, if we're upright, if we're honest, if, in other words, if our actions are expressive of metta, then when we sit down to meditate, we'll naturally be in a state of metta. We won't have to do an awful lot of kind of pushing, so to speak, to get metta going. It'll already be something which is present. There'll already be a sense of well-being within us, and we can just, by giving attention to that, let that flower. It doesn't always happen quite as easily as that for a lot of us a lot of the time, but that's the kind of ideal, is that we just live a life that is so strongly influenced and so strongly expressive of metta that when we sit down to meditate, we naturally just generate metta. We naturally cultivate metta. That our metta naturally flows from our being into the being of another person. The reason I'm saying that is because what it suggests is it's not some kind of special trick that we're trying to do. We're not trying to press a special kind of metta button somewhere in our mind. That it's all of a piece. We're talking about the whole of our life, not just one little separate thing called meditation, which happens without reference to the rest of what's going on in our life. And if you've done a bit of meditation, you'll know that sometimes what happens is when we meditate, the obstacles that we experience when we meditate are about something that's going on in our life that we can only overcome by changing something about the way that we're living. Maybe acknowledging something that we regret, or sorting out some kind of conflict with another person. And we need to do that outside of the meditation before we can go more deeply into the meditation. So meditation can kind of tell us something, as it were, just through the natural effect of awareness stimulating, for example, our conscience. So ethics provides the basis for meditation, and the phrase, may all beings be happy and feel secure. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. That basically sums up the sincere and heartfelt regard for others in which metta consists. It's kind of a summation of metta. I mean, of course, one of the phrases we say, isn't it? We say, "May you be happy. May you be well. May you be free from suffering." And another way we could say that is, "May you be secure." If you're secure, obviously you're free from suffering, and may you grow and develop. The development, we'll hear a little bit more later in the sutta, where the Buddha talks about, just as a mother cares for her child, her only child, so one develops a heart of metta for all beings. So the suggestion there is that metta is also wanting the growth in the way that a mother or a father, for that matter, really wants for their child to grow, not just grow physically, but grow emotionally and become independent, become their own person. So the phrase, "May all beings be happy and feel secure, may all beings become happy in their heart of hearts," expresses the kind of essence of metta. So the word for happy is sukha. Some of you might have come across that word before. It comes up quite a bit, sukha. And it's the opposite of dukkha. So sukha means bliss or happiness. Dukkha means pain or suffering. So dukkha is the first noble truth that the Buddha says there is pain in life, and we can overcome that. So what we're wishing is happiness for the person, with the whole breadth of connotation of what that means. According to the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha is said to be the Sugato. Sugato means the happily attained or the happily gone. The Buddha is in a state of bliss. It's not often realized that the state of freedom, the state of awakening, is a state of bliss, unalloyed bliss. And that's what we're wishing for the person. And we're wishing that they feel secure. So the word there is kama. So they're free from disturbance, free from fear. And we do have a deep longing for that. I think if you start really plumbing the depths of your own mind and your own volitions and emotions and intentions and wishes, you realize that one of the things we really, really long for is a sense of safety, a sense of being secure somewhere. And a really central question in Buddhism is, where is this to be found? Where is this security to be found? And the fact is that it can be found, according to the Buddhist tradition. Security can be found in the Buddha, the Dharma, his teaching, and the spiritual community. But that's another kind of a talk for another day. But basically here what we're doing is we're wishing the person security. We're wishing them happiness and security. And then there's this curious phrase, "May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts," or another translation is, "May their hearts be wholesome." So it's kind of like saying, may they have a happy self, or may they be happy-hearted. So what the Pali, the original language, what it literally says is, may they be those whose self is happiness. May they be those whose self is happiness. So you want the happiness, the security, to be kind of entirely within themselves, not dependent on external circumstances. So we tend to think of happiness as something that we kind of have, as if there's me and I can either have unhappiness or I can have happiness, but they kind of come and they're added on to me. But like I said earlier, the Buddhist vision of what a human being is much more dynamic than that. So when we're happy, that's something that we are. It's something that we should be. It's not something that we have. So that's what we're wishing for the other person. We're wishing that they are imbued with happiness. And it's kind of curious, because happiness comes from metta. Really deep happiness comes from freedom, particularly from aversion. Aversion is or hatred or ill will, is a very disturbing emotion. So if it's present in our mind, we won't be happy. So it's almost as if we're not just wishing the person happiness, we're wishing that they too be in a state of metta. So that comes out in that translation, may their hearts be wholesome. So you're actually wishing that the other person's mind be in a skillful, wholesome, mettaful state. So the metta we're wishing is not just a kind of vague hope. So hopefully that comes across, that the Buddha's actually telling us how to actually go about cultivating metta. And I think this can come as a real relief, because a lot of us know that aversion is really destructive. We can see it in the world, and painfully we can see it in our own mind. So the Buddha's saying, yes, it's good to have an aspiration to be loving, and here's a way of actually going about transforming your mind so that you can destroy hatred, you can remove it from your mind. Very difficult to do, but possible to do. So I know I found that really a real relief, that there's something I could actually do about it, rather than just having it as a vague idea or a vague notion. It can be almost painful to have the aspiration to cultivate love, but not have any means of actually affecting that. And I think that's the state a lot of people find themselves in. They kind of know that it's good to love other people, but then they get really, really upset and pissed off and angry and aversive even when people do things that they don't like, and having no real way of working with their mind. So the Metta Bhavana actually gives you a way of working with your mind, and the ethics gives you a way of working with your actions. So the sutta is about really getting down to a life that actually expresses metta, externally through ethics and internally, as it were, through meditation. And it can be frightening, a bit frightening sometimes, just to recognize the destructive potential that we have as human beings. We can cause a lot of damage, and you can just look around you to see that happening. But also, I think when you cause damage yourself, even if it's minor damage, it can be quite salutary just to realize that each of us have power to inflict harm. And what we're trying to do with Metta Bhavana is to transform that energy so it manifests in a different way, so we can actually bring happiness into the world. But it involves really engaging with the mind in quite a direct kind of way, and cultivating metta. So the Metta Bhavana, this practice that we've been learning over the past couple of weeks, and we will continue to develop our understanding of as we learn the other three stages, is all about cultivation. Metta Bhavana is about cultivation. So the next verse describes how we might go about cultivating metta. And this is what the Buddha says. So after he said, may all beings be happy and feel secure, may all beings become happy in their heart of hearts, he goes on to say, and think of every living thing without exception, the weak and the strong, from the smallest to the largest, whether you can see them or not, living nearby or far away, beings living now or yet to arise. May all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. So then you get that refrain again, may all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. It's the same sequence of words. So this of course is what we do. For those of you who've done the practice already, in the fifth stage, is we move from particular individuals to having a sense of all living beings. So it's as if what we're trying to do is incrementally develop this ability to, whatever arises in our mind, or whatever arises in our experience, in our life externally, we meet it with metta. That's really what we're trying to cultivate with the Metta Bhavana, is whatever happens, we meet it with metta. We meet it with friendliness. We meet it with interest and openness, whatever it is, whether it's something that's pleasant or something that's unpleasant, or it's someone we like, or it's someone we don't like, or it's someone we're indifferent to. And that's what we're doing when we go through the second, third, and fourth stages of the practice, which we'll look at a little bit later on. But what I want to do now is invite everybody into the breakout rooms. So with the breakout rooms tonight, what I suggest, we'll have a little bit longer. We'll have 25 minutes. The last couple of weeks we've had 20 minutes. So there'll be a bit of time to actually have a bit of discussion. So I'm aware that I've just said a whole bunch of things. I've just been talking for the last 20 minutes or so. You've also been reading. You've also done some meditation at home. You've also been practicing here. So you've got a bit of experience of some of these ideas. You've got to, and actually putting them into practice. So it's an opportunity just to talk a little bit more informally with the other people in your group about anything that's arisen for you. So what I suggest you do is just check in with a check-in. Just make it a bit briefer, or make it quite brief even. Just to report in about how you're getting on with your meditation, anything that you learned about yourself, about the practice, and then just think of anything that's been alive for you that you'd like to talk about in relation to Metta, the Metta Sutta, and the Metta Bhavana, the meditation practice that we've been doing at home. So we'll have 25 minutes. So Amy, if you could set the groups going, that'd be really good. Now, the next verse, I'll actually come back to next week because it's all about aversion. So the verse says, "May no one deceive or look down on anyone anywhere for any reason. Whether through feeling angry or through reacting to someone else, may no one want another to suffer." So that's partly what we've been talking about in the last 5 minutes, is actually really not wanting another person to suffer. Even if they've harmed you, you're not going to retaliate. That's a big part of what this practice is about, is not retaliating. What I just want to stick with the previous verse and think of every living thing without exception, the weak and the strong, from the smallest to the largest, whether you can see them or not, living nearby or far away, beings living now or yet to arise, may all beings become happy in their heart of hearts. So the Buddha's encouraging us to think of everybody. Later in the sutta, he actually says, may you develop a heart of friendliness for the entire universe. So that's where we end up with this 5-stage Metta Bhavana. But what we need to do is we need to check in with our attitude towards individual human beings. And then we really come down to our actual attitudes, because it's quite easy, if we think of everybody and all beings, for it to be quite general and quite warm maybe, but a little bit kind of soft focus, a little bit kind of woolly, a little bit kind of vague. So we move there incrementally by bringing to mind particular people and working with our responses and even provoking responses. So what we do in the good friend stage, which we looked at last week, is we bring to mind a friend, and we're trying to, as I said last week, cultivate metta for them, for their sake, not for our sake. What we're going to look at next week is cultivating metta towards somebody who's an enemy, somebody who actually winds us up or makes our life difficult, or maybe is even opposed to us in some way. And what we're going to do tonight is look at the third stage, which is the stage of the so-called neutral person. So the neutral person is somebody who we neither like nor dislike. So it's somebody whose life kind of overlaps with our life, but for whom we have no strong feelings either way. Now, the usual response to a person of that kind is indifference. We recognize that they're there in the same way that I can look over there and I can see a wall, but we don't acknowledge or recognize the fact that they exist from their own side, that they actually have feelings. They're just an object to us. So what we're trying to do in the neutral person stage is work with the capacity that we have for indifference and actually try and develop an interest and goodwill towards a neutral person. And actually this is usually the most difficult stage, because the tendency when we're confronted with something that we find boring or uninteresting is to think of something else. So it's quite easy to get distracted in this stage, as those of you who've done it will know. So what we need to do is we need to evoke, conjure up a really vivid sense of that person. Now, we don't have any information about them usually. We don't know who they are. All we've got is the fact that they exist, and that their experience is real. We know that. We can be really confident about that. We can be confident about the fact that they have a body and therefore they want to be well. We can be completely confident that they have a mind and therefore they want to be happy. We can be confident about the fact that they are a human being and they have the capacity to be free and the capacity to grow. So we're kind of thrown back on a really, really basic kind of existential foundation of the fact of our shared humanity. You've got less to go on, but in a way that's the beauty of that stage of the practice. And another beautiful thing about this stage of the practice is that it's in a way more selfless than the other stages. So if you do metta for yourself, you'll probably feel better about yourself. If you do metta for your friend, it'll improve your relationships. If you do metta for a person you find difficult, it'll probably make the difficulty become more manageable or even go away entirely. But with a neutral person, there isn't any direct benefit. So it's just something a little bit more genuinely self-transcending about it, because there's no immediate benefit that you accrue to yourself. So it's quite beautiful in that way, I think, the third stage. And like I say, because there's not much going on by way of pleasant experience or unpleasant experience, it's in a way the most challenging stage. And when you think about it, most of the people in the world, even most of the people in our neighborhood or in our street, are neutral people. Most of the people in the world we're not going to get to know, but we will pass them in the street. We will be sharing the same shops with them. We will be going to the same cinemas and cafes, etc. You know what I mean? So most of the people we encounter will be in this bracket. So we need to give some attention to that. If we are genuinely going to think of every living being without exception, we really need to start with just actually that guy who gets his coffee at the same time that we do, or that woman who catches the same bus that we catch, or that guy who sells us our newspaper in the morning, or that person who works in the office next door to us, or that person who's in the same class at college with us. Do you know what I mean? So what I'd invite you to do just before we start is think of a person who's neutral in that kind of way. So somebody whose life overlaps with yours. It might be a kind of a brother-in-law or something, or some distant member of your family, but somebody who you see who's part of your life, but you don't have a strong feeling for. Don't worry, you'll never find somebody who's like 100% neutral, so don't worry about that. But just try and think of somebody now, and we'll do the practice in a minute, but I just want you to decide before we go into the practice so you don't spend a lot of time deciding when we're actually meditating. So hopefully you've thought of somebody. If you haven't, there'll be time later to think of somebody, but don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. So what I'd invite you to do now is actually just to set yourself up for meditation, and in a moment we'll make a start. So the first thing is just to set yourself up so that you're going to be comfortable enough for the next 25 minutes. And just remember that you can only start from where you are. So don't worry about how you are right now. However you are, whether you feel tired or awake or tense or relaxed or annoyed or not annoyed, distracted or at peace, whatever state you're in is a place you can start from. You don't have to be in a special state. And to begin with, we're just opening up to how we are, being receptive to how we are. And we can begin that by actually just being receptive to where we are and having a sense of place. So having a sense of the physical space that we're seated in, the objects surrounding us, and the sounds that we can hear. And then feeling the sensations of our body, the energy in our body. And noticing the way that the state of our body mirrors the state of our mind, and the state of our mind mirrors the state of our body. And when I say mind, I mean heart as well. I mean what's going on in our belly, emotion, thought, a sense of the atmosphere, the internal atmosphere of our being. And as we become aware of our body and our mind, will become aware of how we feel. We might feel good, we might feel well, we might feel bad or unwell, or shades in between. And if we don't feel well, we'll know that. We'd rather feel well. And if we already feel well, we can just give our attention to the fact that we're well and allow that well-being to deepen. So bearing that in mind as we say to ourselves, may I be well. Don't squeeze or push or force. Just allowing that phrase to resonate, that aspiration, that intention, that expression of our desire. May I be well. And we also acknowledge, recognize, even embrace the desire we have for happiness. That we really want to feel good. We want to feel happy in our heart of hearts. We want to feel sukha. We even want to feel bliss. So we say, may I be happy. So not may I have happiness, but may I be happiness. And we also long for freedom from fear. We want, to put it positively, security. We want to be happy and secure, as the Buddha says. So we can bear that in mind as we say, may I be free from suffering. And to recognize as well that we can incrementally, step by step, day by day, moment by moment, grow towards that state of security and freedom. So we say, may I grow and develop. And then just sitting, so just letting go of trying to do this or that. Just checking that our face is relaxed, that our shoulders are relaxed, and our belly. And then bringing to mind a good friend, rather. And just spend a bit of time evoking their presence in whatever way is natural to you. You might like to call them by their name. And acknowledging that they have a body, they want to be well. So we say, may you be well. And again, because we're meditating on our own, we can say it out loud if we want to. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And then just letting that person move into the background and just sit. Checking that your face is relaxed. Checking that your shoulders are relaxed. And then bring to mind that neutral person and making a decision to stay with them for the next few minutes. And just noticing what it's like to think of them, to think of that person. You don't know that much about them, probably. But you know that they possess a body and that they therefore enjoy being well and don't enjoy being ill. So we say, may you be well. And we say, may you be happy. Or we can say, may you be happy in your heart of hearts. May you be free from suffering. May you grow and develop. And then thinking of yourself and also bringing to mind your friend and recognizing that each of us, each of those three people, want for their own well-being, happiness, freedom, and growth, that's equal for each person. There's no difference. So having an attitude of metta for each person equally. And then just sitting. Just letting go of the form of the practice and just being with yourself as you are. Okay, so in terms of the home practice for this week, you've got 3 stages. So the first, the second, and the third stage. And then there's an equalizing stage at the end there, which is about recognizing that desire we have for our well-being, happiness, etc., that we all want to be happy and free from fear. We want security. That's equal for every person. So we try and, in a way, recognize that and feel that metta for each person equally. It's quite an important part of the practice, which we'll talk about more on the 5th week of the course. But I just wanted to get us moving into that area. So this week, if you practice the first 3 stages, and if you're an experienced practitioner and you've got an established practice, just try and think of one thing that you're going to bring into the practice, one thing that you reflected on this week or tonight, or that you heard, or some little approach. It could, just one thing can make a difference, just to consciously and deliberately bring that into your meditation this week. And then the second thing is, and this in a way is connected with this idea that, the third stage, the stage of the neutral person, is kind of metta for strangers, metta for all those people, like probably most of us, tomorrow or even tonight, we'll encounter people that we don't know. And just trying to remember that they're actually real. You can even do that by saying to them, not literally, but in your mind, in your heart, may you be well, may you be happy when you're sitting on the train. It can be quite a good practice, actually. It might sound a bit odd, but just actually remember that desire for their well-being when you're actually with them. If you're waiting for something, for example, if you are sitting on public transport, or if you're waiting in a queue at a shop, or if you're just walking down the street, just actually remember metta for strangers. It can make quite a difference to one's mental state. It can actually help you to kind of get over yourself, as it were, if you just remember that other people are all going about their day as you are. In terms of the reading, so the reading for this week is chapter 3. I know some people might have only just got the book, or finding the reading heavy going, or just read what you can. In a way, the book jumps around a little bit. But if you can read chapter 3, that you'll be kind of running parallel with the course.